Hello, it's Larry Clark with Excelsior Music Publishing, and we're doing another Meet the Composer video. And we're here today with composer Valerie Laney-Rowe. And we're also here with Lori Schwartz Reichl, who's going to do the interview today and talk to Valerie and ask all the questions she's interested in knowing the answers to. And hopefully students will be interested in all the things that Valerie has to say as well. So welcome both of you, and Lori, take it away.
Okay. Hi, Valerie. It's so wonderful to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Lori.
So as a middle school band director for 15 years, I'm really excited to interview you because I know that's what you're doing right now, and getting to hear all about what you're doing composing and music-wise. So tell me about yourself, such as where you grew up, where you currently live, and what you do on a daily basis.
So I grew up in Mountain Home, Arkansas. It's in the kind of north central part of the state. And I went to high school in Mountain Home High School. And my college experience, I went to Arkansas Tech University in Russellville. That's where I got my music education degree. The majority of my career has been in the southern part of the state. I live in Magnolia, and I taught in Magnolia for the last, I'd say, about 10 years or so, and I just got a new job this year in Camden, Arkansas. So that's kind of my background in terms of where I've lived and everything like that. As far as like daily basis, what I do, if it's a weekend, a lot of times I like to spend some time in my flower beds. I like to garden and grow flowers and things. Sometimes I find myself doing a lot of choreography. I was in color guard growing up in band and things, and I was a majorette as well, so I still do those types of things. And then, of course, I'd have to mention my dogs. I have 3 Great Danes and 1 pit bull, and they demand a lot of my time and attention. So
I can imagine. Awesome. So you have your real true life Magnolia Farms at home, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I saw on your website that you play the clarinet and you're in some clarinet organizations. At what age did you begin playing the clarinet?
I started, I'd say I was 11. It was when I was in the 6th grade. And I honestly, I didn't really pick the clarinet. I always say the clarinet picked me. My mom played the clarinet for a really short while when she was in band in middle school, and she still had her clarinet. So when it was time to sign up for band, she was like, I have this instrument, you know, we have it ready. If you want to do band, then you're going to play my clarinet. And so I was just excited to get to join band. And so I started when I was 11 on the clarinet.
And how long did you play on your mom's clarinet?
I actually played my entire beginner year and about half of my second year on that clarinet. And my mom and dad realized how serious I was about music and about playing the instrument. And so they invested in a buffet for me. So I still use that. Like, I was in marching band for a year, so I still use my mom's clarinet for that. But then my parents went ahead and took the jump for a really nice clarinet. So
great. And do you still own that current clarinet?
I don't have my mom's clarinet. And I'll tell you, that sounds kind of sad, but I have cousins that took an interest in being in band, and so we kind of passed that clarinet around so that everybody would have a chance to, you know, to join band and to do that type of thing.
Great. Did you or do you play any other instruments?
I didn't start playing other instruments really until I got in college, I would say. My band directors, I had some really amazing band directors, and they kind of recommended that I not do that until I got to college so that I could really refine and fine-tune working on the clarinet. But when I got to college, I did learn saxophone for the jazz band, and I took a little bit of interest on flute and I took some percussion lessons and things like that. So,
And which saxophone did you play in jazz band?
they had me play the tenor saxophone, and so I did that for a couple of semesters, and I think I also played the alto.
You mentioned where you went to high school and also where you went to college. And in both high school and college, what types of ensembles did you perform in as a student? You've already mentioned that you were part of the color guard and that you've done jazz band. What other ensembles have you performed in?
So, in my music education experience, very early on, my directors felt like playing in an ensemble was a very important part of the learning the process, because it makes you responsible to, really know your part. And so, even as a beginner, I remember playing it at a solo and ensemble. I did a duet with my best friend. And then that was just a lot of fun to me. And so I had a best friend that played clarinet, and her church would have these, dinner fundraisers, like a pancake, night or something like that. And so for the entertainment, the band kids would just get, a duet book, and we would go from room to room and play for the people that were paying for that fundraiser to come in and everything. So I did that. And then I got to play my clarinet in the jazz band in high school my senior year. So I was excited about that too.
You got your way.
Yeah.
Great. When did you know you wanted to be a band director?
I knew, I would say when I was in 7th grade, I knew very early on. I always got good grades in school. I didn't really struggle in a class, but I didn't find a class that I really felt like was my thing until I got to do band. And, you wake up some days, some mornings you don't feel very good, and you always try to find something to motivate you to go through your day. And I remember band was my thing. That always, it made you want to get out of bed in the morning. And so I knew very early on I wanted to be a band director. I would say it really started to turn real for me when I was in 8th grade, because I made the all region band, and our clinician was Prissy Buchanan. And I had not had a female clinician before, and she worked us. Like, anytime you do an all region experience, you're having to do a rehearsal for hours and hours. And she just squeezed as much as she could out of us every minute of the rehearsal. And not only that, but she did it in a way that we were actually saying something with the music, and she made it very meaningful. And I just remember thinking to myself, if I could do this, because she just had that. I was like, I could do that. I want to do what she's doing, and I know I can do that. So that's when it became really real for me.
That's fantastic that you're able to have a female mentor like that, and that you could see, like in a mirror, that you were able to do that as well as a female, knowing that we don't often have a lot of females in the band world. So that's fantastic. Who were some of your most notable mentors in music education? You obviously just mentioned one. Was it an elementary, middle school, high school band director, a private instructor, a college professor, or maybe another clinician or conductor that you had an opportunity to work with? Does certain people stick out in your mind?
Well, a lot of people stick out in my mind. I feel really blessed with the experience that I had growing up, because I had a lot of really wonderful people teach me. And early on, I guess I'd have to really mention my beginning teacher was Michelle McWilliams. She's actually a principal now. And she really cared, like a lot of teachers care, but she cared deeply. When I was in 6th grade, I got hospitalized with pneumonia, and she made it a point to like write me a letter to let me know, she was worried about me and get well soon, that kind of thing. So she was probably one of my first influences. And my junior high director was Bill Maxwell, and my high school director was Robert Nelson. And then also when he retired, I had the Chetnicks, Tom and Jill. And so I had some really, really wonderful teachers growing up. And I'd have to say too that one of the things they taught me was how important it was to be something consistent for kids, because I knew every year that I was going to see those same people, and building that relationship really helps to be able to educate kids, so those were some of the people early on. When I got to college, and even through band camp in Arkansas, I always went to Arkansas Tech. I met Dr. Kelly Johnson, and she was my clarinet teacher, and I just adore her. She taught me everything I know about clarinet and everything like that. And my college director was Hal Cooper, and I really enjoyed all of my experiences with him as well. And then probably in terms of really teaching me the fun side of music, I would have to say Philip Parker. He was my percussion lesson teacher, and he did my music theory and ear training classes. And so I really, really enjoyed having him as a teacher as well.
That's wonderful that you're able to think about all of these wonderful educators and you speaking about them so remarkably through each phase of your instructional learning. That's great. So you're currently teaching middle school band, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you taught other levels of band before, or have you always taught middle school?
My very first job that I had, I was at a small school, and I was doing K through 12. I was the only teacher there, so I did do some elementary, very young stuff, young students early on. And I did have a high school band, but it was a really small setting. Other than that, it's mostly been in the junior high, middle school area.
So the cream of the Oreo you're teaching, I always like to say. So what do you like most about teaching middle school band?
What I really enjoy, I would say, is it's such an impressionable age, and I really just have a good time with the kids. I feel like they teach me as much as I teach them. I feel like I'm just now starting to get to the age where they say something and I'm like, what is that? Or lately they do a lot of the TikTok stuff and I'm like, what are y'all doing? And so they're just so fun because they want to share their life with you, and they're looking to build those relationships. And so I enjoyed that level because I feel like not only are they impressionable, but they're willing to put themselves really out there and trying to be a good influence for that.
Okay. Well, we've talked a lot about your background and becoming a band director. Now let's get into how you became a composer. So when did you become interested in music composition?
I became interested in writing. I would say I had probably been teaching for 5 or 6 years, and I found myself playing a lot of like repeated songs because the things that I enjoyed about them, I couldn't find a lot of that in other pieces. And so I think the very first time that I wrote something, it was just an arrangement of a Christmas tune, and I got a lot of positive feedback from the kids. They enjoyed playing it, and then from the parents after the concert and everything. And so that was kind of when I began to really spark an interest in doing that.
Had you dabbled in it prior to your 5th year of teaching, or did you take any music composition courses in college?
I didn't take any music composition courses in college or anything like that. The youngest exposure I would say to creating my own music. They used to have in Arkansas a series of camps. They called it Aegis camps, and they were free camps. You had to apply and be accepted to go. And I went to the Arts Encounter camp, and they had a dance section where kids came for dance. There were kids that came for acting, and then there were kids that came for art, drawing, and then music. And in the music part of it, we would study different types of music, genres and things, and then they would ask us to kind of write our own stuff and perform it for each other. And so I did really enjoy that experience and the creating in that, but I didn't really start writing until probably around that fifth year.
Wow. And what was the first piece you published, and when? What year?
So the first piece that I've published, it was Contrails, and that is coming out in May, I believe. And so that'll be my very first published piece. And so I started, I would say, refining that last year.
So that'll be your first published piece. Do you have others that are in the works right now?
Contrails comes out in May, and then Victorious also is going to come out at the same time. And then right now I'm working on writing a march for a young group.
Okay. And since you're newer to the compositional project process, is there a particular grade level or genre that you prefer to compose, or you're sort of kind of gearing yourself more towards?
It's probably because I'm a middle school teacher that I really like to write for that age level. But not really anything in particular, mostly band, mostly stuff for concert band, and mostly for the younger groups.
And have you written a piece specifically for your band, or was it that you had your band in mind as you were writing a particular piece?
So I wrote the very first original thing that I wrote shortly after the Christmas arrangement that I did, and I named it Summertime Salsa. And the reason that I wrote it, it was, I was teaching 7th grade band, which was their 2nd year. And we would work out of a method book. And at the very beginning of the year, that's such a crucial time for those kids, because they're trying to decide, do I want to keep doing band? Do I want to do something else? And you're kind of wanting to keep those kids' interest, and keep them wanting to do band, because that the places that can take them in their life later on. And so I wrote this piece because I knew we probably wouldn't be able to dive into book 2 yet, just trying to get them ordered and everything. So I wrote this piece for my kids called Summertime Salsa, and I tried to make it fun. I tried to make it a fun, enjoyable piece. And every group that I've ever had play that, it kind of was a very beginning of the year thing, and they always really, really enjoyed playing that song.
Neat. Have you been commissioned yet to compose a new piece of music?
I have not yet received any commissions.
Okay. Are you eager to do so?
I am, because a lot of the writing that I do, it's inspired. I would say by experience. And I think a lot of times commission pieces are inspired by, something very memorable. So.
What have been some of your most memorable compositional memories? For instance, have you ever started with a melody and thrown it away and then brought it back, or thought something wasn't going to be excellent and it surprised you and it really was something that students liked? Have you gotten really frustrated about something, or has something popped into your mind immediately?
I would say very, very early on, after I finished contrails, I began to, I sent it to first my coworker, David Stewart, and the whole reason that my inspiration for that piece really was about kind of my relationship with my mentor and coworker, David Stewart, and the success that relationship helped me get to in my career. And so after I wrote that piece, I sent it to a few people, and I got a little bit frustrated, I would say, with just the process of trying to, get published, just the refining of the piece. It was very, very frustrating for me. And I was very thankful to find Larry, and he really helped me in just persevering through that process, and getting that first piece published. But that I feel like this whole first experience it's very memorable to me, and I'll tell you, God has been a very big part of it too.
Which composers do you admire and why? Or is there one that you're emulating to be like?
I'll tell you, when I first started to write, someone gave me some advice, and they said, think of somebody that you enjoy playing their pieces with your kids, and then look at their pieces and maybe, send your stuff to them and see if they can help you. And immediately the first person that I thought of was Larry, because, that was anything we did with our bands that he wrote, like, the kids loved. Like, that's what they look forward to. And so, he has been incredibly inspirational. I enjoy his works and his artistry and his craft. So I'd definitely say Larry. I love a lot of William Himes, has a lot of really great pieces. William Owens, I love his marches for young band and his pieces. I also really, really like Anne McGinty and Carol Britton Chambers. Just got through playing Night Fury with my kids, her piece, and then our kids got to play at Region this year. They got to play the piece that she just released. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, those are some really great composers.
Awesome. As a student musician, do you remember performing band music composed by a woman? And if so, which pieces or which composers?
I do remember very early on playing some pieces by Anne McGinty. And I'll tell you, I actually just recently, because my mom was big into scrapbooking, and she saved every single program. And then whenever I graduated from high school, she had me take that scrapbook with me, so I still have all of those programs. And honestly, the only female composer that I've been able to have the experience of playing their literature was Anne McGinty. So
Wow, surprising.
Yeah.
What do you feel are your strengths as a composer?
Um, I would say that my strengths would probably be just almost, I hate to use the term like an earworm, but my husband always tells me, like, when I'm writing something, he'll say, "Oh, this song is stuck in my head. I can't get it out of my head." So I feel like I write some really catchy melodies that are really fun to play and fun to hear.
Cool. And do you have any limitations or any that you would acknowledge? And what are you doing to enhance those limitations?
Um, I would say that I'm trying to learn a lot more about the percussion side. Um, you know, growing up as a clarinet player, like I always had a part to play in every song, no matter what. And then as a band director, when you began to select pieces, you realize that, well, this piece doesn't have a lot of percussion stuff. And you're like, well, I don't want my percussionist to not have something to do in the back. So one of the things I'm really trying to focus on and getting better at is learning just about some unique percussion instruments and trying to make sure that I keep percussion busy, you know, in the pieces that I write. So I'm doing a lot of I'm taking advantage. My two coworkers right now, they're both percussionists, Andrew Steck and Brandon Huey. So I'm taking advantage of that and just kind of I'll bounce ideas off of them and things like that.
Neat. We're hoping that many educators and students will be watching this interview with you. What advice would you give to students who have an interest in composing music?
Um, I would tell them, like, never give up on it. Like, there will be days that you will feel so frustrated with the process or frustrated by something somebody says to you. But don't give up on that because, it is an art. It's a craft. And do it for you and stick with it for you because it does pay off and it really will pay off.
Would you encourage students as young as elementary to even start composing little melodies now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what do you think would be the best way for them to do that?
Um, they would have to have I would say some resources in order to do that. Like, I don't know if you mean like kids that are in band.
Sure.
Like, I encourage my kids all the time to, like, I use an app that is a really cool drum set, and you can change the style and stuff like that. I'll use that as a metronome. A lot of times I wait to do it on Friday, so it's kind of a prize. And I've kind of shown them, like, you can just improv on top of it, and you play the notes in any order you want, and just make it your own. And so, there's a ton of ways to do that.
And how important do you think it is for student musicians to also get an opportunity at some time when they're rehearsing music to see the conductor's score so that they can see what it takes for a composer to put all of those pieces of the puzzle together?
I think that is incredibly important. One of the things that I try to do as a middle school teacher is, if any time that I'm going to play a piece, those kids are learning how to rehearse. And sometimes that's a process for them because a lot of times they have to sit still and wait while you hear the tubas play their part. And so to kind of help them get through that process, I'll just take the score and I'll put it into Sibelius and I'll create a warm up so that if there's a part that my kids are struggling with, I can tell everybody, get your warm up out, and we're going to play section A. And that'll allow me to, have everybody is playing the tuba part. And so, and a lot of times they don't even know that that's what they're doing. But I'll show them, this is the tuba part. This is how it sounds. Now you have to sing your melody on top of that. And so I think it's very important for them to be aware of what we're looking at, because they have to be listening for it as they're playing. So, you know, they do get a lot of experience in playing other people's parts and looking at it. And I do show them my score so that they understand it.
Neat. And what would your dream commission or composition be, and why? Would you love to write for a certain ensemble or a certain person's band?
You know, I had never really thought about that before. As I'm just getting started, the whole thing is kind of new. I don't really know.
Neat. Cool. Well, that may come as you're going through the process. So neat. Do you have any upcoming either world premiere performances of your new pieces that are coming out, projects or collaborations that you'd like to share with educators and students?
Well, as of right now, everything is a little bit up in the air, I'd say, with kind of all of the things going on in our world right now. I was going to be doing a beginning band clinic that was supposed to take place in April, but it's been postponed as of yet. So as of right now, I don't have anything like that going on.
But you would love to do more of those in the future, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And what is the best way for educators to get a hold of you if they'd like to have a band clinic with their band, or if they'd like to commission you for a new piece of music?
I'm really easy to find on Facebook. I've got a composer page. It's just, if you search Valerie Laney-Rowe, composer, and then my email is just valerielaney@me.com. And then you can also go to the Excelsia page, and you'll find links to my Facebook account and my Instagram and all of that stuff. So those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
And you said it's Contrails that's coming out in May, is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So band directors can look for this music for the upcoming academic year for some new selections from you. So congratulations, Valerie, as you get started in this compositional process. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Lori, for doing this for us. We appreciate it. And she'll also have Victorious that's coming out, and that's grade 3. So Contrails is about a grade 2, and Victorious is grade 3. And I'm going to share that I don't know if you remember, she submitted music to me when I was at my previous job at Carl Fisher. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that's honestly the reason why we reached out to her and said, because I remember giving her feedback thinking she's very close. She has to work on a few things. So I hadn't heard from her. I was hoping she would submit more. So went back out to her and said, hey, are you still writing? Do you have any new music? I have a new company. I'd like to have you submit some stuff. And so here we are. So it's been pretty exciting.
Well, and Valerie, I would encourage you to access the Institute for Composer Diversity website, and you can actually place yourself on the database as an underrepresented composer, as a female, and that's another way for people to find you as well. So you can do that. You can do that this afternoon if you wanted to do that. So
perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for participating, and we hope these are useful for students and for teachers all over the country.
So how will these be accessible, Larry?
I will send you both a YouTube link here probably within the hour, and it'll also be accessible on our website. We have a special page. It's called Meet the Composer videos that you can access right now right from the homepage on our website, excelsiamusic.com. All right, take care. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.